Alright guys, one of my subscribers asked me to do a video on how to sharpen knives on the cheap. I want to start out and thank Ghost Town Custom Knives for one of these tips, and I'll point that out. And I'll actually put a link to his website in the description below. But I'll also say it too, it's ghosttowncustomknives.com. That's with one T. That's Ghost, it's like Ghost Town. You can just say it like that, but Ghost Town Custom Knives. He gave me this tip, and it really does help out. So I'm sorry I'm boring you here with that, but we'll start out with what you're gonna need, and really the cost. One, a coffee cup, and a ceramic coffee cup is preferred, and that is actually the one you're gonna need. But a coffee cup with, like here, an unfinished, unglazed portion at the bottom. Like this one has that white ring, that means it's unglazed. And a piece of printer paper, just like this. And now you can do this, but this is the point where your knife is not extremely dull. If your knife has gotten to the point where it won't cut butter, well then you really need to spend some money, either get it professionally resharpened, or go ahead and buy sharpening stones or a kit like a Lansky system to put that edge and that angle back on your knife. But if your knife is relatively sharp, you haven't been using it a whole lot, and I'll show you this one here, like this one here. It's my EDC. I've been using it to open letters and boxes. This is a trial period for this knife. It's a Ontario Utilitac. But it's sharp enough to cut through paper like this. Oops, sorry. Sharp enough to cut through paper like this. See? And after you've done that a few times, if you use it, it's sharp enough to cut through normal paper, which is not that hard to do with almost any knife. But if it's still sharp enough to do that, then you can actually put the edge back on the knife to be a little bit sharper using this system. And now what you're going to do is the coffee cup. And why a coffee cup works is because it's made out of ceramic. If you're not familiar with ceramic, ceramic material has a hardness scale in the Mohs hardness of 9. The only thing harder than that is diamond. Now normal blade steel, like this, is going to have a hardness of like 5.5 to 6. So softer material on harder surface means that the softer surface gets worn away. So with this, it's very simple. Yeah, the part of me right here while I hold the cup. Normally I won't hold it like this, but you just run it back and forth, find the correct angle, do it slowly at first, learn your angle, keep the angle consistent, and keep doing this until you think it's sharp enough. Since this is relatively sharp to start with, I don't have to do this a whole lot. But you'll notice on a new cup that you'll see like a little black, and I don't know how well it's showing up in the pictures, but if you see black on the rim, that means it's working. That means you are removing metal from the blade. So keep that up. And what you want to do is constantly alternate sides. You don't want to keep doing it one side and then the one side repeatedly and then switching to the other. What you're doing with the metal when you're sharpening it, you're also bending it over. And if you were to look underneath the microscope, it'll kind of look like little saw blades that alternate. One on this side, one on that side, one on this side. As you're doing that. And this is what you're doing. You're trying to minimize that as much as possible. Now if you kept sharpening it on one side, all those sharp, saw teeth would be on one side. Not a good thing, because all you're doing is removing excess metal. You don't want to remove too much, so that's more than enough for this knife anyway. And it's not going to improve the sharpness of a whole lot, but you can see how sharp it is. I can freaking shave this paper. So that's sharp enough for you. Next up though, at least sharp enough. This knife is actually sharp enough for me. I didn't even need to run it on this cup. Next up though is a piece of paper. And you roll it up just like this. And you start. And this way you want to go like this with the blade. You want to go with the edge toward you. So again, alternating sides. And this is a great thing because if you get the angle too steep, it sits there. See how that's doing that? It bites into the paper. So you know your angle's too steep when it starts doing that. See, it's actually shaving the paper. It's not even through, it's shaving the paper. And why the paper works is because it's a fibrous material. Even though it feels smooth, there's a fiber on it. And what that's doing is taking those little micro pieces of steel and putting them back in line. It's also taking off the weak ones. So this gives you a nice sharp edge. See, I had the angle too great on that one. I just cut into the piece of paper. You see right there. So you do that three to four times on each side. So that's the cheap way to sharpen a knife. Again, that's for a knife that's relatively sharp to start out with. Now, if you're a novice, beginner, or even like me, you want to take it slow. Take it slow until you're used to using the system, because the worst thing you could do is cut yourself and really cause yourself some serious harm, or you can just screw up the knife. So when you start doing this, practice on a cheap knife until you get the technique down, and then you can switch over to a more expensive knife, maybe your everyday carry. Now there is another thing that's a little bit better, I think a little bit better than the paper, but will most likely cost people money, especially if they don't have this stuff laying around the house, because I know almost everybody has a freaking coffee cup and paper laying around their house. What you're going to need is a leather belt, a piece of wood, and some rubber cement. And what you're going to make yourself is a strop. Oops, helps I had it the right way to start with. What a strop does, it's a piece of leather glued onto this piece of board. What the strop does, and this is where you're going to go back and do it the other way, it's a little bit better than the paper. It's a little bit faster, I think. And this one actually just sits there and polish up that edge really nice and well. And I like it. I like using a strap over the piece of paper. One, I feel I have a little bit more control over the knife this way, and what I'm holding onto. I don't have to worry about cutting myself. Cutting yourself, not a fun thing. I don't know if you can hear this, but it kind of has a little hiss when you're doing this, and that's what you want. You want to hear that little hiss. Now you can put compound on your strop. So if you put compound on your strop, it makes it a lot faster. Both a plain leather belt or with compound rubbed onto it's going to work, although with the compound it does it a little bit faster, so you have to do this a lot less. So if you're one that doesn't have a whole lot of time to sit there and sharpen your knife, well, then you might want to think about spending $10-12 for a block of compound. You can find the compound by doing a search, but it's basically a green, kind of looks like a gold bar, but it's a green bar, weighs a pound. It's like a chromium, if I remember correctly, but pardon me if I'm wrong. But it's a buffing or a polishing compound, often used in the automotive industry, for when they do paint. Now you can take and use all our stuff on here besides that buffing compound if you don't want to spend that money. But I recommend going and doing that, and that's what I'm doing right now. I just haven't done it yet. Right now all I have, because I did this on the cheap, I had some of this Dremel buffing compound, and I put it on the piece of leather. And one thing nice about the piece of leather, and I forgot to mention this before, is that leather has a little bit of a give to it, so you don't have to be as precise on your angle. So when you're not as precise on your angle, like a novice is most likely going to be, it makes it a lot easier. So you can actually be a little bit less. If you're a little bit less, all you're going to be doing is polishing up the side of your knife, which is fine. If you got a little too steep, the leather gives in. You're not dulling down your knife all that much either. So there's really no harm that can be done. So that does help. Again, I'm not going to get this razor sharp I was never razor sharp out of the box. I don't think I have that skill yet to actually be able to sit there and shave arm hair. See, I don't have that skill yet where I can actually get it to shave arm hair. Although it did take a few pieces off. Oops, now I got a little gunk on my knife. I'm a little anal about keeping my knife blades clean for the most part. But I think I covered everything. This I hope I did. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, just leave a comment for me. That's it. Thank you for watching.